It's the Wiltfong Whip Around with Steve Wiltfong. Today's Monday, July 22nd, and boy, was there a lot of action that went down over the weekend. Actually, a lot of commitments happened over the weekend. Some of it was live right here on the On3 Recruits channel, and we're going to cover it all today. But before we get going, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel, the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube. All right, let's bring in my guy, Steve Wiltfong. And Steve, let's start with the live commitment, one that went down here on this channel yesterday. The number 33 ranked player in the country, Vernell Brown, made his decision right here, and Vernell Brown commits to the Florida Gators when they really needed a commitment. This was an important recruitment because earlier in the spring, Steve, I think we could all agree Vernell Brown was trending to the Buckeyes, but in the end, why was it the Florida Gators?
I just think Vernell Brown III always saw himself playing his college football in Gainesville. His dad, Vernell Brown II, played his college football for the Gators. And throughout his recruiting process, he used to send videos, highlight videos from Pop Warner, middle school, and high school to these college football coaches. And one of the people that he was sending them to regularly was Billy Napier. Well, Billy Napier kept every single one of those videos on his phone. And ahead of his official visit to Gainesville the weekend of June 14th, he sent all those videos to the creative department that they have inside their football building. And they made a really cool video of Vernell Brown III's highlights alongside his dad's highlights at Florida. And if Florida wasn't already leading in this recruitment, that was something that really helped Trey picture himself playing for the Gators. He went through the rest of his process and ultimately committed to Florida. He likes the trajectory of the program, likes the way Billy Napier has changed the culture in the building, likes the way that they've recruited. He's excited to get in there and be a Gator, and committed to Florida over Florida State, Miami, and Ohio State on Sunday.
Yeah, and prior to this, heading into the weekend, the Gators were outside the top 50, but with the addition of the number 33 player in the country, they jump almost 20 spots into the 30s. Now, we know the Gators aren't going to finish.
Number 19 in our favorite metric, average rating per commit.
the Steve Wiltfong Power Rankings, they are in the top 20. And moving forward, their top target is going to be linebacker Ty Jackson. Now, we're going to talk about him a lot because he is in no rush to make a decision. He's already come out and said, I'm making it in early December on the early signing period. So Ty Jackson has let it be known he's going to watch this season play out, which is a good thing. We talk about that a lot, Steve, on the show, the Gators having the season that they hope to have. Could Ty Jackson be on that commit list if the season goes the way we think it could?
Well, if you ask Billy Napier, he'd probably tell you we got a lot of top targets down the stretch as they try and improve this recruiting class. But Ty Jackson, our number one ranked linebacker, he's going to be back in Gainesville this weekend. Coach Armstrong and company have done a phenomenal job recruiting him. He's also going to be at the Florida-Miami game to kick off the season. So of a big season by Florida this fall, Ty Jackson, he's visited Florida as much as any program in his process. Florida State's going to get the last official visit the weekend of Thanksgiving. But if Florida has the season that they're trying to have, they're a program that's going to be hard to beat for Ty Jackson as he continues through his process.
All right. Now, when we talk about the Gators recruiting class, the strength of the class right now has to be wide receiver. They have two top 10 wide receivers, of course, Vernell Brown, but also in-state four-star Joshua Moore. What's next at wide receiver for the Florida Gators?
Well, Vernell Brown is maybe the most electric player in the country with the ball in his hands at the wideout position. Then you have Joshua Moore, who's 6'4", 200 pounds. He's that physical, tough mismatch on the perimeter. Nashawn Montgomery is another top target for Florida. They've recruited him heavily for years now. Napier has built a good relationship with the kid, built a good relationship with his father. He's going to be back at Florida this week. That's his only visit scheduled. They would love to add him to the two in the fold. That would be one of the best receiver classes in the country for sure. Nashawn Montgomery, that missing piece. And then, Josh, one more name I wanted to get into this Florida segment is Ben Hanks, top 100 cornerback from in-state. We've talked a lot about Miami's position for Ben Hanks. Florida is also near the top of the list for Ben here. He's expected at Florida this week as well, as Florida's bringing in some of their top remaining targets. It's not going to be a big class for Florida. They only have like 19, 20 seniors on the roster, Josh, but they're looking to add a lot of quality here down the stretch. They're going to be looking looking for some flips during the season. If they play well, guys like Hilton Stubbs, they're not going to go away on. But Vernell Brown III, what an awesome recruitment to win going into fall camp. Ty Jackson visiting this week, Ben Hanks visiting this week. Florida is in the thick of it for some of their top remaining targets moving forward.
Yeah, it seems like the Vernell Brown commitment could be the spark Gator recruiting needs. Gator fans, talk to us. Comment section below. Who are you most excited about moving forward into the fall? Let us know. Comment section below. All right. LSU, they're feeling good coming out of the weekend because they landed DJ Pickett on Wednesday. That was right here on the On3 Recruits channel. Then on Saturday, it was another big win because LSU won out for Derek Meadows, the 6'6", 205-pound, big-bodied wide receiver out of Las Vegas. He commits to the Tigers. That momentum still going down there in the Bayou. Steve, how did they get it done for Meadows?
I think Derek Meadows viewed LSU as a place where he can compete against the best in the SEC alongside the best at LSU. Their long history of producing wide receivers, Cortez Hankton having played at the highest level himself. LSU was able to rally in this recruitment. Also, them having Bryce Underwood, players like that in this recruiting class. Another thing that made LSU equally enticing is they beat Notre Dame, beat Alabama, beat Georgia for one of the most coveted receivers in the country. LSU missed out on DeCorian Moore. They've lost CJ Wiley to Florida State, but they still have ambitions to sign one of the best receiver classes in the country. They now have Derek Meadows in the fold, and they're looking for more as this process continues.
Yeah, let's talk right now, though, about number one safety Jonah Williams, because over the weekend, now he's been trending towards Oregon, but there's been a lot of LSU talk on our shows recently, and over the weekend, Justin Wells of our Inside Texas site reports that Jonah Williams is going to make a return trip to Austin this weekend. So that kind of puts the Longhorns back in the picture. What's the latest with Jonah Williams?
Well, I think LSU is still one of those programs that you look at and say they're in the top 2 or 3 for the number one ranked safety in the country. He's loved his visits to Baton Rouge. He's someone that's going to play baseball on the next level. He's throwing 94 miles an hour this summer. LSU's track record of baseball is also something that helps them out. Texas A&M is certainly a major factor in this recruitment. Oregon has picked it up, but LSU's right there in the middle of it for Jonah Williams. We'll see if the Longhorns can make a move if they get him back on campus this week, but LSU is one of the front runners.
Yeah, LSU hoping that recruiting momentum can carry over to Jonah Williams as well. I want to circle back to wide receiver real quick and talk Jamie French. He told you recently that he's leaning towards visiting LSU again this weekend. Jamie French in the fold for LSU. What about Khalil Lockett as well? What's the latest intel there?
Yeah, I talked to Jamie French in the weekend, and he told me that he's leaning towards being at LSU this weekend. Miami also trying to get him to campus. Everybody's chasing Texas there. I still give the Longhorns the edge, but LSU is a program that's given Jamie French a lot to think about, and that's a recruitment that's had a lot of ebbs and flows. He was at one point committed to Alabama. Ohio State was the leader. Then Texas has moved into pole position. We'll see who's out in front at the end as LSU and Miami give him a lot to think about alongside Texas. Khalil Lockett's going to commit in early August. I like where Texas stands there as well. So LSU trying to chip into the Longhorns lead for a couple of these 5-star on-3 industry prospects. Alabama's also high on Khalil Lockett's list. Texas A&M and Florida State rounding out his top 5 as he goes into decision mode.
Yeah, LSU, they really hit it hard in the spring, and then summer, they kind of plateaued out a little bit, but right now at the end of summer, LSU getting hot once again at the right time. All right, let's talk a little Tennessee recruiting as the Vols are eyeing a top 10 class over the weekend. They landed a huge commitment from linebacker Christian Gass because this was a battle between Georgia and Tennessee for an in-state Georgia kid, and Tennessee comes out on top, but they want more. Steve, we're looking at a couple flip targets for the Vols. Desan Brom and Jaden Perlotti are the 2 targets we want to talk about here. Now, Desan Brom, one of the top tight ends in America, he just committed to Oregon, but you are already putting in a prediction for him to flip?
Yeah, Chad Simmons and I predicted Deshaun Brame to flip from Oregon to Tennessee on Monday afternoon. And if Tennessee wants to take that next step as a program, if they want to consistently beat the Alabamas, in the Georgias, in the SEC, these are the recruiting wins they have to have. Christian Gass over the weekend, what a major recruiting win for their defensive side of the football. He's someone that can rush the passer. He can change direction and tackle. He can play in space and cover and take away passing lanes for quarterbacks. He's got a unique skill set. And to beat Georgia and pull him out of the Peach State is huge. They're hoping to do that this weekend with Laganza Hayward. Deshaun Brame, they lost the battle with him at the end of June with Oregon. He commits to the Ducks in what was a back and forth, but the Vols may win the war. We think they will. Coach Abe and company have stayed on that one, and that one is trending very well for Tennessee for Deshaun Brame. And then Jaden Perlotti, Josh, we've talked about him a lot on our respective shows, Inside Scoop and Whip Around. And look, he's been committed to Georgia for a long time. And there was a time where it looked like he was going to flip to Florida State. There was a time where it looked like he was going to flip to Auburn. Right now, it looks like he could flip to Tennessee. Our colleague Chad Simmons reads it as much. I'm hearing intel that says he could flip. I'm also hearing some intel that they're saying good things to Georgia. So we'll see. He's expected at Tennessee this weekend. What we do know for sure is that he is looking strongly at Tennessee. He's having great communication with the Vols, and the Vols could flip Perlotti, who is one of the more physically impressive second-level defenders in the country. If you can get Perlotti and Gass in the fold, I think they'll look for one more linebacker this fall on a senior eval type deal, but that'd be a heck of a run for them, again, as they try and get closer to Alabama and Georgia and winning the SEC and being in those biggest games in the country at the end of the year.
And that is not the only prediction you made in favor of the Vols. Tell us about more.
Yeah, Onis Konanbanny is an on-3 industry 4-star cornerback who I predicted to Tennessee late last week, joining Simmons. That goes along with the intel that Austin Price and those guys have been reporting at VolQuest. Onis is expected back at Tennessee this weekend, had a great official visit with his mom during the summer. Man, has a great relationship with so many guys on staff, Coach Banks, Coach Martinez, Coach E.T. So he just feels very comfortable around them, loves the trajectory of the program, loves the players, and I love where Tennessee stands with Onis Konanbanny right now.
And then this weekend, you kind of touched on it at the top, but this weekend, Laganza Shady Hayward is going to be making his decision. And he was trending towards Tennessee for a long time, but then took that visit to Georgia, came out, said Georgia was his leader. Are you buying it, or are you still all Tennessee for Shady Hayward?
I'm buying that there's ebbs and flows in these recruitments, and I think some of those summer visits were needle movers. Georgia looked strong for Georgia coming out of that official. Florida gave him a lot to think about during his official visit with Billy Napier and company. But I'm wrapping up my 4th month at On3. Happy as ever as I've been at work, Josh, working with guys like you again over here at On3. One of the first On3 RPMs I put in was Laganza Shady Hayward to Tennessee on April 1, and I feel great about that prediction as we sit here and talk about it today. Tennessee got the last official visit the weekend of June 21st. No program has recruited him harder from start to finish. Loves where this program is going, loves his fit in the secondary. We talked about the recruiting win with Christian Gass. If they can add Shady Hayward, these are championship level pieces, top 100 players with great traits and skill sets. Hayward would be a big recruiting win for Tennessee. I think they get it done this weekend as they continue to push for a top 10 class. They sit at number 12 right now, but I see top 10 in the future for Tennessee. And anytime I say I see top 10, their readers are quick to remind me it's going to be top 5, Josh, because they got guys like David Sanders Jr. out there. We know they're at the top or near the top for the nation's #1 offensive tackle, David Sanders Jr. Maybe they flip Dwayne Morris, a USC running back commit from in-state who's visiting this weekend. So a lot of action for Tennessee here as they try and push for a top 10 class, or like their readers say, like they remind me, top 5.
There you go. All right, Tennessee fans fired up about this recruiting class. Let's whip it around to the trenches, specifically the offensive line. Let's talk offensive line 5-star buzz. There's a few guys here. Michael Fasusi, Josh Petty, David Sanders, and Andrew Babalola, all uncommitted, all ready to come off the board relatively soon. Let's talk Michael Fasusi first. He's going to be a mid-August decision. You like Texas there still?
I don't know, Josh. I think that should still go a few different ways. I don't hate Texas. If he
Right.
picked the burnt orange, would not be surprised. There's some confidence around Oklahoma and the Sooners as they make their final push for Michael Fasusi. He's been on campus there a bunch, loves Coach Beatenbaugh, and I'm still not sleeping on Texas A&M. He's as prioritized as anybody Mike Elko and that new staff is recruiting. So that's one that I think as his late August decision date gets closer, we'll see who really starts to emerge there as programs start making their final pitches and final offers to one of the most coveted players in this class, regardless of position.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one. And then right before he comes off the board, 5-star interior offensive lineman that some are recruiting as a tackle is set to decide on August 12th. And I'm talking Josh Petty. Josh Petty has been trending towards FSU, but Ohio State, Tennessee, among others, also heavily involved. What's the latest with Josh Petty?
Yeah, my On3 RPM is on Florida State for Josh Petty. His sister goes to school there. Alex Atkins has done a fantastic job recruiting him. Offensive line coach, offensive coordinator, Mike Norvell. That offense, how balanced it is. They think it's a great fit for Josh and his skill set. Again, being able to go to college with his sister, I think is a big deal on his official visit. They got to eat lunch together. They got to eat dinner together. They got to walk on campus together. That made him and the family very comfortable. But Florida State's got some major, major competition as this decision nears. Chad Simmons and I both continue to emphasize that Georgia Tech is one of the major contenders here. They could keep him home. Brent Key, he is an offensive line guy. He's at his alma mater. Georgia Tech's in an exciting place right now as a program. It's close to home, so the Yellow Jackets are very much alive there. And Ohio State, they're pushing hard to add him to one of the top recruiting classes in the country. They sit at number 2 right now behind Alabama. But Josh Petty, David Sanders, they're in for both of those guys, and they're trying to make a late charge for Josh Petty as well.
All right, let's talk David Sanders, the number 1 offensive tackle in the On3 industry rankings, and there's rumors that maybe he takes visits. We don't know ultimately where he's going to show up this weekend, but of the contenders, who needs to get David Sanders on campus the most before he makes a decision?
Well, Josh, we reported, I had an article a couple of weeks ago that said he may take some visits this week. We talked to his mom. They were looking at the calendar, looking at some logistics, looking at itineraries to see if they could get on the road, if there's a school that could get that final look for David ahead of his August commitment date. And it would be huge for Nebraska to get him back to campus. They're going to have some top young 2026s on campus like Brandon Arrington. They're trying to close linebackers like Will Hawthorne and Christian Jones. But David Sanders, he's the super big fish out there. We watched them rally and flip legacy recruit Dylan Raiola at the end of that 2024 cycle. That helped put them in the mix for David Sanders this cycle. He said as much. That was an eye-opener for him to see Raiola flip from Georgia to Nebraska. They got him on campus for an official visit Mother's Day weekend. That was his only time in Lincoln, but they loved the vibe and atmosphere around Matt Rule's programs, his track record of turning programs around, the fan support from Nebraska, second to none. If Nebraska can get him to campus this weekend, I think that they're having good dialogue, good conversations with the family behind the scenes. If they could get him on campus again this weekend, I don't think any of the other contenders are sleeping on Nebraska when you're talking about Ohio State folks. You're talking about Tennessee sources. Georgia's the 4th finalist. But no one, I think people are viewing Nebraska as a real contender here with a few weeks to go in the David Sanders sweepstakes.
Yeah, and if he pops up in Lincoln this weekend, boy, that would be crazy. All right, Andrew Babalola, he's the last 5-star we want to talk about. You've been all over this recruitment. What's the latest on Babalola, and do we know about when he'll make a decision?
Well, trying to stay on top of it. Not much from our last Andrew Babalola discussion on Whip Around. Stanford's the RPM pick, but Michigan is really making it a difficult decision. People around Oklahoma think that they're in the middle of it, with Coach Bill Beatenbaugh. They haven't talked to guys like Walter Rouse, who transferred from Stanford to Oklahoma to finish his college football career. But Michigan, that perfect balance of big-time football. You see right here, the Wolverine Special Commemorative Edition volume of Michigan's national championship season. If you have not bought that yet, please purchase it right now. But Andrew Babalola sees an opportunity to play at the highest level in the biggest games. I think his mom really likes Michigan. She's had some nice times on campus. I know his dad really likes Stanford and what they represent academically. He's still trying to figure this out before the start of his senior season, which I believe is August 12th. Not senior season, first day of school I think it's like August 12th or August 13th. So
Yeah.
those are the three programs I'm looking at the hardest, but Missouri's still swinging. Auburn's still swinging. But Michigan, Sharon Moore's heavily involved. Grant Newsome, mom likes Michigan. But Stanford checks a lot of boxes for him too. Stanford definitely led going into the official visits. Has anyone able to change his mind? I think we'll know soon.
All right. You guys in the comment section, you're the real recruiting experts. Let us know. Where do you think Michael Fasusi, Josh Petty, David Sanders, and Andrew Babalola will ultimately end up? Let us know. Comment section below. All right, Steve, let's talk a little Auburn recruiting right now, and we're going to talk recruits trending towards Auburn. One of them is Jared Smith, one of the top uncommitted edge rushers in the country. He's going to be making his decision August 3rd right here on the On3 Recruits channel. That's why you got to be subscribed. Jared Smith, 2025 edge rusher. Where do you like him? What's the trend here? Why is it Auburn?
Well, I've joined Chad Simmons in logging an On3 RPM pick in favor of Auburn, talked to some sources with knowledge of that recruitment. There was a time where I absolutely loved South Carolina and the way they recruited Dylan Stewart. I thought that they were going to have a great chance to land Jared Smith in similar fashion, but Auburn is coming on hard in this recruitment. He's expected at Big Cat weekend this weekend ahead of his August 3rd decision. And so I really like where Auburn stands with Jared Smith as things are at early in the week.
And Steve, that's not the only recruit that you like trending to Auburn right now. Tell us more.
Yeah, Auburn looking for a second straight top 10 recruiting class in 2025. They're also looking to get off and running in 2026, and this could be the week to do it. Coming back to campus on Saturday is Jared's Alabaster Thompson teammate, Anquan Fagans. Now, he's going to visit LSU earlier in the week. I might view LSU as the biggest challenger, but my On3 RPM is on Auburn for Anquan Fagans. He's going to commit live on the On3 channel on July 29th, so hit like and subscribe so you don't miss those notifications, but we like the way that's setting up for Auburn. Blake Woodby is a On3 industry 4-star defensive back from Baltimore St. Francis, who I have a long-standing On3 RPM in favor of Auburn there. And then in the 2026 class, one of the top edge rushers in America, Hezekiah Harris, put in an On3 RPM prediction for Auburn going into his weekend visit at Big Cat. Would not be surprised to see him jump in the fold for Auburn sooner rather than later. As you know, 2026 recruiting, guys committing early, that's declaring them as the leader. But good news nonetheless if Auburn's able to get him in the fold.
All right. Now, let's end the show with a little Nebraska recruiting buzz and take us out of here.
Yes, Josh. Nebraska with a huge recruiting win over the weekend with On3 outlier defensive lineman Cade Peachtrek announcing his commitment to the Huskers, choosing to play his college football in Lincoln over Oklahoma and a slew of others. This guy's 6'5", 250 pounds on tape. He plays offensive tackle. He plays all across the front of the defensive line. He is a high-motored, powerful, twitchy player up front. Got to be one of Matt Rule and company's favorite players in the class. A huge recruiting win. Nebraska pushing for another top 25 class. They sit at number 27, but Cade Peachtrek was a big recruiting win for them. Now they're swinging at the big fish, David Sanders. They'd like to land a couple of these linebackers. Maybe it's in-state 4-star Christian Jones or Will Hawthorne, who they had in camp, ran really well. They're battling Iowa State for him. So a lot of excitement for Nebraska on the trail as they land one of their favorite players in the 2025 cycle. A lot of excitement on the recruiting trail, so make sure you hit like and subscribe. We got Big Ten Media Day this week, so I'll be downtown Indianapolis rubbing elbows with some of the best coaches in the Big Ten Conference this week, so we'll have a lot of coverage on On3 there, and we'll be back Thursday for another episode of Wilt Fong Whip Around.